What are the black jobs?
They're taking black jobs now.
What are the black jobs?
Hold on, so let me get this straight. The white farmers in Louisianans, they're mad because people of color won't come work on their farms.
They don't want to come out here and work in this extreme conditions, 100+ degree temperatures, dust, hard work.
What if you paid them more?
It doesn't matter.
White farmers are outraged that black people do not want to work on their farms.
Why would you purposely go to get rid of your workforce and not have a backup plan for the people that you're getting rid of, especially if your business is relying on that workforce? Your hatred can't be that blinding and that overwhelming that you can't think about your bottom line, especially when it comes to your businesses. You can't tell me you did not think about who is going to come in and replace these vital workers for your survival. They kept hearing Trump saying that the black people jobs were being taken. I'm thinking in their minds, they were hearing Trump saying the black people are going to come back to those jobs. And therefore, in their mind, they heard we were getting our 1,800 slaves back.
Hi everyone, welcome back. And today we're going to dive deep into some jaw-dropping story whereby white farmers in Louisiana have reportedly outraged that black Americans won't go back to working to their fields after mass deportations of undocumented immigrants. I know it might sound unbelievable, but this is not fiction. It is rooted in history, labor realities, and some painful politics. First off, I want you guys to understand that these Louisiana farmers say they're desperate for workers. 40 to 70% of agricultural labor has been undocumented immigrants. With deportations, tightening, and a Trump era rhetoric, you see crews have vanished, right? But when farmers expected black workers to fill the gap, many refused. And it was not just about the money. It is about dignity, history, and choice. Ask any black professional today, would they trade years of progress for back-breaking farm labor? Probably not. And you'll find that many farms operate under brutal conditions. You see 100-degree heat, 10 to 100-hour work weeks, dusty, punishing environments for about $11 an hour. That breaks records, but it is also a sentence. And understandably, many black Americans, doctors, engineers, business owners, they won't go back to this. It's a reality check because political decisions, deportation laws, rolling back DI, shutting job corps haven't just created a labor vacuum. They have exposed a painful truth: you can't push people into the past. Stick around because I want to unpack the full story that is history, race, economics, and yes, politics and political consequences. So let us break this down, and I'll be back with my further commentary.
American workers and American taxpayers have been taken advantage of for multi-generation, for decades. And it's time for somebody to stand up and put us first and put the country first and do what's best for the country, not what's best for the politicians.
Even if you as a farmer suffer.
That's right.
I mean, some people would hear that and be quite surprised that you're prepared to put your livelihood, your family's livelihood, on the line for the sake of politics.
Well, that's my duty as for being the head of my household. I've got to do what I got to do, what's going to be better for the future, better for the kids. It's not about today, it's about the long term. The long game is where the rewards are going to be.
You want to get rid of illegal immigrants, quit eating. And that's for everybody. That's, nationwide. If you want to get rid of them, quit eating. That'll solve the problem.
But when only 5 pickers showed up this morning to harvest his sweet potatoes, farmer Keith Smith saw possible ruin, the loss of his $500,000 crop.
They're running scared because of this new law.
And you're in trouble.
I'm in trouble, bad trouble.
Smith's 200 acres need 20 pickers, mostly Mexican nationals.
There is not enough documented people here to supply that workforce.
Most of your workers are here illegally.
But sure, if they got documentation, they got a better job than working for me.
Fernando Aldeman, a Mexican national, has worked Smith's farm since 1992. Everybody's just scared.
Yeah.
Now, are you here legally? No.
No.
So, are you scared?
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm scared, you know.
Smith's pickers make about $100 a day. He supports immigration laws, just not this one that threatens his third-generation family.
Hold on, so let me get this straight. The white farmers in Louisiana, they're mad because people of color won't come work on their farms for $11 an hour in 100-degree heat for 10 plus hours a day. Let me run that back. White farmers are mad. The very farmers that voted Republican, okay, they voted for this, are mad that people of color won't come work on their farms for $11 an hour in 100-degree heat for 10 plus hours a day. I'm saying you get what you ask for. Hey, it's FAFO type shit, okay? But hey, don't be fooled. I feel like it's gonna come to a point where they're finna make people get on their farms. Don't count me to it. Because if 2025 was a checklist, hey.
So I was on YouTube and I came across this video claiming that white farmers are outraged that black people do not want to work on their farms. And I thought it was fake because I was like, this has to be like clickbait or whatever. So I searched and I came across Facebook, and y'all, the comments were wild. I still wasn't sure if it was real. So I tried to go to the staffing agency's website, and y'all, apparently so many people went to their website that the website crashed. So I figured, okay, maybe this is actually real. So they're basically offering $11 an hour to pick blueberries, 9 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, from May to July in Louisiana heat. Now, I never heard of L'Aranger, so I decided to look it up real quick. So here's some info. And just so you know, my source is this website called places.us.com. So anyway, livability is a C-. Population is less than 6,000. Demographics is almost 91% white, followed by black, then Hispanic, then Indian, then Asian, and pretty much 0 Hawaiian. I saw that they voted Republican in 2020, but it probably doesn't take a genius to guess how they voted in 2024. So that's just to give you a little info about the town. So anyway, back to what I was saying. So $11 an hour is what they're offering. Full-time, 7 days a week, 9 to 10 hours a day. Now, according to salary.com, Louisiana's minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. So this is a bump. But let's be real. Now, for some people, they might say, oh, it's a job. Go work it. It's a job. But it's not a job, you know. It's more like a sentence. And then when you look at who they expect to take these jobs, you don't have to guess. It's a page straight out of history. Black folks, migrant workers, you know, the ones who are currently facing deportation right now. Vulnerable communities getting used for back-breaking labor for pennies. But people are saying this is what they voted for. So what do you think? Is it FAO season or what?
Nah, fuck that. That. Joe Biden already bailed you guys out the first time because Donald Trump screwed you over his first term in office. You guys seen what the he did to you, and then you voted him back in again, and you think that we're supposed to have some sympathy points, or you going on CNN crying because he's your shit up again? Really? Get the fuck out of here with that shit. The farmers and Nebraska, Wisconsin, all of these states that are being affected, and they're trying to come on social media and the news stations crying now for sympathy points because they fucked themselves over by voting for this orange little. Nah, it's too late for that shit now. Suck it the fuck up and struggle for the next 4 years.
So y'all, AM, PM staffing service posted this on Facebook because they were looking for farm pickers. And these are the terms right here. The comments, I'm going to show y'all some of the comments. The comments, Lord have mercy.
So the dairy farmers' undocumented workers have disappeared. One in particular, Justin Macchia in Sheldon. He's a dairy farmer, voted for Trump twice. He has no workers. With 1,400 cows to milk, he can't get nobody to do that work. 12 hours a day. It's dirty and it's dangerous. We're not doing that. So the dairy farmers are suffering because the migrants that you voted for to get removed from our country are getting removed. Now you're whining like a bitch. I don't know what to tell you, except that you're in the find out phase. Anybody else like oysters? This happens to be delicious. Carry on.
Well, here we are with another fuck around and find out situation. It seems that this is happening a lot with the Donald Trump administration. So I brought you guys a video recently about a farmer who was selling alfalfa, and he was realizing that because of the tariffs, they're going to lose their farm possibly because China is not buying their alfalfa right now. This next farmer, who says he's a Trump supporter, currently still a Trump supporter, wants us to know that we need to share his video because it needs to get out there so that Donald Trump knows what he's about to do is going to hurt small family farms. Check this shit out.
I'm a supporter of President Donald Trump. Voted for him in this election and the last and the one prior to that. However, President Trump is about to allow JBS, the world's most corrupt beef organization, to become publicly traded in America. President Donald Trump will be the president that allows for the complete destruction of the small, independent family farms and cattle ranches if he allows this to go through.
Newsflash, Donald Trump does not give a damn about you. But you know who gives even less of a damn about you? Myself and all the other liberals you thought you were owning when you voted for Donald Trump. What we got for you is a bunch of middle fingers, man. We're like, fuck you. We don't care. We don't care if you lose your farm, bro. You voted for Donald Trump. You even said at the beginning of this video, I am a supporter of Donald Trump. Why the hell would we give a damn about your gripes? You're getting exactly what you voted for. I love when I see the memes and the conservatives out there saying, screw you liberals, this is exactly what I voted for. This is exactly what you voted for. I don't know why you're making this video. This should be a thank you video because this is what you voted for.
The FCC has already approved it. Now we're just waiting a mere few days for them to allow it on the stock exchange. And what's concerning is we haven't heard a word from the Secretary of Agriculture about this. We haven't heard any of the large cattle organizations that represent cattlemen speak out about this. They claim to represent cattlemen. The truth is they only represent the big guys. They're bought and paid for by the same organizations, JBS, Cargill, Tyson, National Beef, all the collusion that's happening. Go do a very simple search and you'll see the millions and millions and tens upon millions of dollars that these companies have been ordered to pay for collusion and price fixing, which has cost us our family farms and ranches And what that costs us as the people who aren't family farms and ranches is a stable food system. As much as I'm a supporter of many of the other things that Trump is doing.
And there you have it. He's a supporter of many of the things Donald Trump is doing. And what he's talking about there is the hate and the bigotry. You see, he came for the bigotry. He came for the deportations. He came for the hate against the gay and trans community. But what he's getting out of it is possibly losing his farm, losing his shit, losing all the things that he worked so hard for. So here's the deal. Understand something. He wants...
Y'all, I have some mixed feelings about these farmers that are getting screwed over by these tariffs. There's part of me that wants to laugh in their faces and say, congratulations, you got exactly what you voted for, bro. And then there's another side of me that understands that these people are just too simple and don't really understand what they did.
You don't want to hear the price I'm about to give you. I said, well, give it to me anyways. He said, each of those steaks now is going to be $1.74 a piece. I said, well,
double
you know,
the price.
We can't do that. And that's going to be impossible. So that's just to let you know a little bit of what we're going through out here on our farm and what farmers in general are going through. These tariffs, not the best thing for our country. I voted for Trump.
Now, if you didn't catch that at the end, he said, these tariffs aren't the best thing for our country, and I voted for Trump. These people don't really pay attention to the news. These are people that just listen to what Earl says down at the diner, and he's voted Republican his whole life because they're the party of God. And speaking of God, there are a lot of these farmers that say, you know what? I'm not that worried because God's got this.
Out of faith, and our faith is in God and not in administration.
In agriculture, there's about 85% of what happens on my farm that is completely out of my control.
Yeah.
So I have to do the very best I can at managing that 15% of inputs and costs and labor and marketing and signing the best contract and doing the best job that I can and leave the other 85% up to the good Lord. And that's all we can do, whether it's weather or disease or a hailstorm or a pandemic or administration.
They're trying to compare these tariffs to a natural disaster, but this isn't a natural disaster. This was a decision made by one man who is screwing them over. And they're just like, well, it's in the Lord's hands. What can we do? And this, again, is why religion is so dangerous. They're willing to accept financial ruin because the Lord's got this, so I'm not going to be worried about what Trump decides to do. And my friends over at the Cowboy Church told me that God put him in office for a reason. And that's just it. When you think that there's a supernatural force just watching over you at all times, nothing matters. Your family might starve. Well, if that's what God wants, who am I to argue with him? If you don't get your kid vaccinated, they could easily die of a disease that's easily preventable. Well, if that's what the Lord wants, I'm not going to be able to stop him. And that is why religion is one of the most dangerous things on this planet. Because these people have been convinced that they are completely out of control of things that they could completely control if they wanted to. And the sad thing is that we need our farmers, but Darwinism is going to take them all away from us if they don't get away from this Christian nationalist way of thinking. Unfortunately, I just don't see that happening. Do you?
There is the historical weight of the field. Let's be brutally honest here. When a black American is asked to go work in a southern field, no matter how much the pay is, it's not just a job offer. It's a loaded demand. You're not just asking someone to harvest produce. You're asking them to return to the scene of a generational crime. For centuries, fields in the South were places of back-breaking labor under slavery. Then under the Jim Crow, sharecropping, and even now, exploitative labor conditions for immigrants and the poor workers. You'll find that not so many will be willing to go back. So when someone like Kate Smith, a white farmer, says he can't find black folks to work the fields, the real question isn't why won't they work, it's why would they. This is not about laziness, it's about liberation, it's about dignity. The labor being requested doesn't just come with heat stroke and long hours. It comes with the shadow of the lash, the overseer, the broken promise of 40 acres, a mule, and nobody's rushing back to that. Not after all we've learned, and not when we're still being disrespected, even now. Then there is the pain of being needed but not valued. They need us but they don't value us. What's even worse is when black workers do take on these farm jobs, black often still treated as disposable. There are lawsuits showing that black American workers were paid less, housed in worse conditions, and given fewer benefits than the immigrants from South. I mean these immigrants from South America. That's intentional. That's the plantation mentality showing up in 2025. You want labor, but not our human dignity. You want our sweat, but not our families. You want to pay us $3,000 a week, but keep your foot on our neck in every other way, with defunded schools, slashed job corps programs, and no upward mobility. You know, that speaks volume. And when we reject that kind of arrangement, the same people who say they can't find labor, they call black people ungrateful, lazy, or entitled. But when they're doing really good, resisting injustice in real time. Number 3, the political irony. You voted for this. Now, let's talk about the uncomfortable truth, because many of these farmers who are now crying out for help are the same people who supported Donald Trump and his anti-immigrant and anti-black pro-corporate policies. We want to keep these jobs for American people, blah blah blah. They cheered when the borders were slammed shut, you know. They nodded along when DEI programs were gutted. They said nothing when job corps, one of the only pathways out of poverty for rural black youth, was shut down. And now they're shocked that no one is showing up to their farms to work. This is where the F around and find out energy hits hard. You can't destroy the systems that educate, empower, and employ people and then expect them to come back to come break their backs for you in a field. You broke the bridge, now you want people to swim back to you. How? That can't happen, of course. And rejection as resistance, that is number 4. What we're witnessing isn't a labor shortage, it's a moral refusal. A growing number of people, right? Especially young black men and women, are looking at their options and saying, we deserve better, right? They are seeing that a society that ignores their lives until it needs their labor isn't a society worth sacrificing. Worth sacrificing for. They are not returning to the field, not because they hate work, but because they love themselves. They love their futures, and they are done letting America define their worth by how many bushels they can pick in a day. Well, guys, this is resistance. This is self-respect. This is generational healing in action. Number 5, it's not the South, it's the soul of the country. And here is the bigger truth. Louisiana is just a mirror. What's happening, it reflects what's happening everywhere. From the North Carolina to California, from meat packing plants to Amazon warehouses. Well, America is built on cheap labor, and for centuries, the cheap labor was black when it was undocumented immigrants. And now, with both groups pushing back, the system is breaking. And instead of fixing the system, the powers that be just want to shame the workers, blame the victims, or automate the whole thing and push even more people into poverty. But people ain't buying it anymore. Of course, there is a growing class of workers saying, if the only way to survive is to be exploited, with rather not survive on your terms. So, what's the message here? This is not just a critique of Trump era policies or conservative hypocrisy. It's a revelation of how deep the rot goes. It connects. There is the economic to the emotional, the historical to the political, the personal to the systemic. It explains why people are refusing these jobs in the fields, and it demands that we look at labor through the lens of justice, not just productivity. And as I come to the end of this video, there are human stories at the center. We begin with people like Keith Smith and Justin Markia, because these rose the issue in reality. These are not abstract economic trends. They are flesh and blood individuals, right? Who are caught in a systemic collapse. Smith is facing spoilage and financial drain, not because he failed, but because the labor system around him has been gutted. Markia, on the other hand, represents another layer. The farmer who supported Trump and is now feeling the blowback from the policies he voted for or he once supported. His dilemma is personal, yet politically symbolic. Their stories show that this crisis doesn't discriminate across a class or race among small farmers. If you don't have labor, your crops don't get harvested. It's that simple, but also hints at consequences that are political. Voting choices, immigration attitudes, and cultural expectations are colliding. What black workers are saying is there is the emotional and psychological component of often ignored in mainstream analysis. The refusal of black Americans to return to free labor, even when the pay is high, is not laziness or entitlement. It's a form of resistance grounded in historical trauma, because many Southern black families are descendants of enslaved people who worked in these same fields. The memory of exploitation is generationally encoded. You cannot detach the economic offer from its cultural implications. To a white farmer, $3,000 per week sounds generous. To a black American with a lineage of exploitation in agriculture, they may feel like being asked to sell their dignity, especially when white farm owners historically profited from that labor without ever offering justice or equity in return. And the lawsuits show that when these black workers do take these jobs, they are sometimes treated worse than immigrant workers. This is not just about economic injustice. It's racial insult. It's a confirmation of the systemic devaluation of black labor, even today. And then we talk about the policy and power. Now, we shift from individuals and communities to the role of policy. What does this policy do? Sometimes government decisions like cutting job corps, attacking DI, and tightening immigration are not neutral. These are actions that affect who has access to work, opportunity, and of course, dignity. When young black Americans are stripped of resources like education and workforce training and simultaneously told to go back to low-wage, physically demanded farm labor, that's not a coincidence. That's systemic design, and people are rejecting it. This part of the commentary reminds us that labor choices aren't made in a vacuum. People don't just refuse to work. They weigh what's offered, what's taken away, and what the work represents. The refusal to return to the field is not just economic, it's political and it's deeply symbolic. Let us talk about agribusiness versus the family. The myth that all farmers are struggling equally is wrong. Agribusinesses dominate the industry with massive automation, lobbying power, and capital. Small farmers, however, are being squeezed by both corporate giants and the political decisions they often support. What's critical here is the irony that many of the very farmers are now suffering, voted for policies that hurt them. Immigration crackdowns dried up their labor force. Tariffs disrupted their markets, and anti-DEI, anti-worker policies contributed to a breakdown in labor trust and availability. This is the essence of F around and find out. It's not just snack, it's a brutally honest way to describe cause and effect. So for a moral reckoning, this is the emotional and philosophical heart of the piece. We ask, as black people, what does it mean to build a food system that relies on exploited labor? What does it mean to lament that the loss of workers, but never question why those workers left? We see the cost of America's refusal to deal with its past, right? Racism, slavery, exploitation, reflected in today's economic collapse on these farms. Well, when people refuse to be mistreated, when they walk away from jobs that remind them of chains, that's not dysfunction, that's justice. The real question is whether white farmers, politicians, and the public are ready to reimagine agricultural labor in ways that are fair, inclusive, and respectful. Otherwise, they're going to keep reaping what they sow, literally and figuratively. And maybe you might be asking yourself, what can be done? The way forward that America needs is not just to end in anger and despair. We need solutions, not slogans, right? Then we need to have immigration reforms. We need to acknowledge that the immigrant labor is essential. Is essential. Legal pathways must be protected, not demonized, and those workers must be treated with dignity. When we talk about dignity, labor dignity, if you want people to do hard, dangerous work, pay them well, house them safely, and treat them like humans, not like how you store your tools. Support small farmers. If the country wants local sustainable food, then it must support the people producing it, not just corporations, right? The country must also be ready, this is number 4, must also be ready to invest in black and rural communities. That means jobs, education, and infrastructure, not stripping those things away and then wondering white folks aren't showing up to their work. I want to give my final thought, and I know this might be a final thesis of what I have said, but plainly, this is not just a Louisiana issue. It's America's refusal to address race, labor, and power in a meaningful way. When fields go unpicked, when farms go under, when communities rage, it's not a surprise. It's the logical result of policy, memory, and power. Power structures that have refused to evolve. I don't know what you think about this video, but I'd like to know your thoughts in the comments. So most definitely, I'll ask you to leave a reply. My black brothers and sisters, tell me what you think. The white farmers, white people watching this, if you're watching this from the diaspora, tell me what you think. I hope to see you in my next video. Peace out.